the healthcare delivery system across the United States has all got similar problems. And they all derive from what happened to healthcare in 1966.
Yeah, you're referring to the passage of Medicare,
Yes.
and the passage of Medicare happened on the heels of another legislative boondoggle called the Hill-Burton Act. And the Hill-Burton Act was Harry Truman's brainchild, and that's what put a hospital in almost every county in the United States, whether there was a market for them or not. Once those hospitals were in existence, they did not want to collect their money from individual patients. They didn't even really want to collect their money from Blue Cross or anybody else. They wanted to plug directly in to the taxpayer trough.
Right.
So I don't think it's any coincidence that following Hill-Burton and the peppering, the metastasis of government hospitals all over the country was very quickly followed by a mechanism for them to be paid directly by government, bypassing the actual buyer.
When I
And
go
that,
to Colorado up 287, every little county between here and where I'm going in Colorado has got a county hospital, whether it needs one or not, whether there's 4,000 people living in the county, all of whom are within driving distance of a bigger city, or not, they all have a county hospital. And this is exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, and how do they get paid? I mean, they get paid by government.
Yeah.
And they were, they decided to plug into that boondoggle early on, and all of these hospitals have just made a killing. I mean, they've made a lot of money. Now we can bash hospitals all day long, and a lot of them deserve it. But we have to remember, and we have to stay focused, that they can't do what they do without government and Uncle Sam driving the getaway car.
Absolutely. 100% of the responsibility for the devolution and quality and everything else that's wrong with the healthcare delivery system is squarely in the lap of the federal government. 100% of it, as are the vast majority of all of the problems in the United States right now. It is the federal government's fault. And this all started, but you cannot involve men with guns in a market, because then it's no longer a market. And when you're talking about the federal government, you're talking about the authority of men with guns. And that's not an overstatement. That's not an overstatement. In 1966, Medicare was invented by the Johnson administration. And ever since then, Keith, I remember when I was a little boy, my mother would take me to the pediatrician, and I'd have chicken pox or something like that, and she took me to the doctor, because that's what you're supposed to do when your kid gets sick. And he looked at me and examined me and poked around on me, and he was a funny old cuss. Didn't really have a bedside manner for children, but he was a good man, and he was a good doctor. And so this is probably 1963. And when we got through back there with Dr. Sullivan poking around on me, we went up to the front desk, and my mother gave his office manager $15. And we left. And it was it. It was a fee for service, like things ought to be. But that is so foreign to everyone's experience at this point. They just you tell them that story, and they'll just say, that's bullshit. It's never been that way. Well, it has been that way. It has been that way. And it ought to be that way now, but it's not. And as a result, a procedure that you can charge $3,700 for is being billed at 8 times that rate down the street.